When you think about business education and education of future management leaders, business leaders, or any kind of professional, and you try and talk about ethics, we do often tend to focus on basically the cognitive question. Here are some challenges you're going to face, and we want you to recognize them, build awareness, and we want to teach you how to think through them in a rigorous and consistent and appropriate way. So that's teaching analysis. But we rarely do give people the opportunity to practice and focus on action. How do you enact them? So the first thing I would do is I think it really is important to do the awareness building, to do the teaching people how to analyze and think consistently and rigorously, but also to give them the chance to build action plans, create scripts, engage in peer coaching and rehearsal and practice, so that it becomes a skill that you're teaching and a confidence that you're instilling, as well as simply intellectual capacity. So that's one piece. But the other piece is that I find that, and it comes from a good place, I think, but I find that our process, when we tend to raise ethical challenges in education, is often to present things as false dichotomies, is the way I like to put it. You either are going to be financially successful, or you're going to care about the environment. You're either going to be financially successful, or you're going to treat your employees respectfully and generously, or whatever it is. Now, of course, everybody tries to say, no, good business, good ethics equals good business, and I think it often does. But we all know organizations that don't necessarily operate in the most ethical or considerate or sustainable ways, and also manage to financially be successful, at least in the short term. And there are companies who could try and be very ethical, but if they're poorly managed, they can fail. So just being ethical is not a sure guarantee nor of success, nor is just being unethical a sure guarantee of failure. And so I think it's more a question of how can we do these things. So instead of setting these things up as false dichotomies, as I call them, I think the question has to be one more of how. So instead of saying, we're going to build the manufacturing facility that limits our emissions, or we're going to be able to operate in a cost-effective manner, the question becomes, how can we reduce our emissions and, in fact, still be financially viable? So I think we need to reframe those questions. I think the questions we ask are too limited. We're not trusting our students, and we're not trusting our business leaders to be as creative as they really are. Instead we're saying, you've got a choice. You can succeed, or you can be good. And I think that it's not enough to simply say, oh, if you're good, you'll succeed. That's too easy. It's really about how do you do it effectively. And so when I think about how management education can really, be enhanced, I think it is focusing on that question and getting back to your idea about exemplars, sharing examples of people who found very creative ways to do that. I think frame it as innovation, frame it as creativity, frame it as entrepreneurial. Don't frame values and ethics as a whole bunch of thou shalt nots. Business students and business leaders are not motivated by constraints on their action. They're motivated because they want to build businesses. They want to be successful. They want to build enterprises. They want to make money. And so, if you present everything as a constraint on action, it's not very empowering. Instead, ask them to use all that creativity and all that ambition to think about effective ways to achieve the goals that we're talking about, whether they're ethics, whether they're sustainability, whether they're respectful workplaces, and being, financially viable.